Testing 1, 2, 3. This will be the November 16th, 2016 City Council regular meeting.
All right, everybody. Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call to order a regular meeting of the City Council of Satellite Beach, November 16th, 2016, approximately 7 p.m. Please join Councilwoman Gott for a moment of silence and the pledge.
For the last time, please join me in a moment of silence. Thank you. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. At this time, the podium's open for citizens' comments. This is for non-agenda items. Hearing none response, we'll move on to agenda item 4, City Council comments.
Today I had the privilege of helping the wonderful Colonel Bud Meyer celebrate his 93rd birthday. He's really one of a kind. And I also have been exchanging emails with Bud Wade. I think everyone knows that his wife Kitty passed away on the 11th. And there were a couple of messages in a couple of his emails that I wanted to pass on. We sent them a card while Kitty was still living, and it was from the city. And he said, "Please thank everyone for their thoughts on my behalf. It's good to know that our city likes us as much as we like the city." And he also said that I asked him where people could send flowers, and he said if anybody is interested in sending something, that in lieu of flowers, please make a donation to the Satellite Beach Women's Club, because that was such a great love of her life. So that's it.
Thank you very much.
I have nothing.
Just one request from council. Last August, I had the chance to talk with the Florida League of Cities Executive Director, which is Mike. Thank you. As a follow-up to the article that Lorraine had written on the quality cities, the publication that you put together with the assistance of all the city team, and asked him what he thought about a presentation as a follow-up to that. He said that'd be fine. You have to send in a paragraph and indicate exactly what you'd like to cover and that sort of thing for the League of Cities. So what I'm asking for council is the opportunity, and I spoke to Courtney earlier, just to give her a heads up as well. If it'd be all right if I sent him one paragraph of an idea for a presentation that we could do at the Florida League of Cities on kind of some of the efforts that we've done here in the city, and just kind of get them out there to the whole community at large. You know, our chances of getting accepted for it, I know they get an enormous number of presentations, but I thought we could give it a try. We've got, a few times in the next 4 years that we can try to do this. So if you guys are up to that, that's what I'm asking about, Mr. Mayor.
Sure.
What do you mean by a presentation? Another article?
No, actually, the Florida League of Cities has presentations at their events.
Annual conference.
Annual conference, yeah, annual conference. So it'd be probably about a 1-hour presentation on everything that we've done in police, fire, rec, all that sort of thing, just kind of summarize the activities. Because I think the article that you wrote went over pretty well, and I think that he's receptive to certainly taking a look at it, extrapolating that over an hour and trying to explain everything that's going on, because there is some interest out there doing that. But it's just hard for people to figure out what they want to do. So we've got such a cafeteria plan of things that we've done, and we could share it with other cities if you guys are up to that. So I'd do that in the next. He wanted it by 1st of December, early January, somewhere in there. I'd do it within the next 10 days or so, try to get it at least a paragraph to him, and then we'll have to. If he says, yeah, let's take a look at it further, then I'll have to do more than just a paragraph. I'll have to explain it further. So okay.
Consensus?
That sounds good. Yep.
Okay, thank you, guys. That's it. That's all I have.
Dominic?
I just want to commend the city and the Satellite Beach Women's Club all our staff, Public Works, police and fire departments for Founder's Day. It was a great event. It was probably by far the best Founder's Day that I can remember going to and participating in. It was great. So thank you for all of the hard work that our people put into it to make it happen. I attended the Florida League of Cities, the Space Coast League of Cities monthly meeting on Monday night, and I asked Courtney to make copies of the legislative priorities that the Space Coast League of Cities is going to be looking at for 2017. And some of the issues are on here that are on this legislative agenda are issues that were some of the issues and goals that our city actually had. So I also included what is the information from the Florida League of Cities Fast Flying Strike Team that goes to Washington, D.C., and two members of the Space Coast League of Cities, Pat O'Neill from Rockledge and Mike Brown from Cape Canaveral, attended on behalf of the Space Coast League of Cities. And this just gives you an idea of some of the things that they talk to our representatives and senators in Washington about that are issues that are important here to us back in Brevard County in the state of Florida. And the last thing that I wanted to bring up is at the Space Coast League of Cities meeting on Monday, we've always had an advocacy team from the Space Coast League that represented Brevard County and going to Tallahassee on whatever issues needed to be addressed here locally, and the relationships that we have with our legislators, and they're asking for one person from each city. So I've been doing that, and if y'all are still interested in keeping me there, I would need at least consensus from you to appoint me as that person. So I'm bringing it up now. I don't know if you want to do it at this stage as something or put it on an agenda or how you all want to handle it, but I'd like to continue in that role for our city.
It's fine with me.
Consensus?
Yep. Sure.
Thank you, Don.
I'm good. Keep up the good work.
Yep. Thank you. I have nothing. Okay, moving on to agenda item 5, City Manager's Report. Courtney?
Thank you, Mayor. We also wanted to thank the Satellite Beach Women's Club and all of our departments for the Founder's Day. It was a great event. We had a really good time. It was also, we had a lot of vendors at this one. It was pretty neat. On November 19th, this weekend, we will have our annual Food Trucks and Movie on the Green event at the Schechter Center. And in this event, we have it's from 4 to 7. We have food trucks out in the parking lot, and we show a free movie. Finding Dory is the movie that we'll be showing, and we will start that at dusk. At the next weekend, or after Thanksgiving, on December 3rd, Ocean Reef Beach Festival will be returning to Pelican Beach Park. We have over 90 exhibits and vendors at this event, and the city will have a booth again at this event alongside our sustainability board. So they'll have their booth as well. I've received a thank you note from Keep Brevard Beautiful for the city's participation in the Lagoon Friendly Lawns program. And the city and KBB have certified 4 contractors since the first 4 months of the program's creation, and I think we just approved our last one this past week. The police department has received a thank you note from Bud and Billy Mayer regarding 2 fantastic volunteers, Marietta Restivo and June Esposito, who both work with our Stop By and Say Hi program. And I have received a thank you note from Rob Bracewell regarding the Public Works Department and the great work they're doing on the debris removal from the storms. And speaking of debris removal, we have requested the county to stop with the trucks at this point. We had an incident this evening, earlier today, where the boom operator knocked out another power line, and this is the 3rd utility line that they've affected, but this one was a very bad event. They broke the power pole in 3 places, and it landed on the resident's roof. Then it caught fire, a fence in a shed, and the shed had damage to it, and the fence is gone. And then the cables fell on a car and a truck, causing pretty significant damage to those vehicles. And then one of the power lines was in the road, and when the police officer was trying to tell one of the owners not to leave and drive over it, they failed to do that and caused an argument, and that someone was arrested for that. So it was a very bad evening with this issue. Also, another property owner was affected with the top of the house where the power goes in was ripped off the house at the same time that the pole fell. So the worst part about the whole entire event was that the operator of the boom was not licensed to drive that vehicle. And so we've asked the county just to exit, and we'll finish the rest. So we're in the process of securing a contractor now to finish the rest of the debris removal. So we'll come back to you. So, we're authorized up to $20,000. Obviously, we're going to go over that. So I would need your authorization to move up to, I would say about 80, just to be safe, about 80,000 for that. I'm just concerned now with unlicensed contractors. We just can't have that in the city. And the incident this big, if we have another one, we know now. So if we have another incident, we're already on watch and warned, and so I think at that point, it puts us in the liability standpoint if there's another incident.
Do we want to, at this meeting, I don't want to slow this process up where we can't hire this new contractor to come in and remove debris, and it sits for another 3 weeks or 2 weeks till we have another council meeting.
No, I was wanting you to
I'm
authorize it
making
now.
an
Yes.
authorization now?
That's correct.
Okay, since it's an action item, discussion from council. How much more do you need?
We were asking for authorization up to 80,000 total, including the first 20.
Okay.
So moved.
I have a motion by Councilman Montanaro, second by Councilman Gott. Question on it. We're going to apply for this back to FEMA?
I was going to send the county the invoice.
I just want to make sure somebody pays us for this. Okay. At this time, since it's an action item, I need to open it up for public comment, if there's any public comment on this particular item, action item. Hearing none, back to council. Mark?
I suppose, without naming names, I suppose you've got one or two or more individuals lined up that could do this, because, we could take an action tonight, and it could be a week before you find somebody. So you're kind of
We
ahead of the
already
game?
have, yes.
You're ahead of the game?
Yes,
Okay.
because we've hired, Public Works has been out there, but we've also we've hired contractors to do the private roads within the city, because FEMA does not reimburse for that, and the county contractor wasn't going to do that, so we had to hire somebody for that purpose. So we already have people that we've gotten price quotes from and all that, and so we're ready to hire them tomorrow.
I just want to say this, Alan, your guys are incredible in comparison to the private contractors out there. I mean, I've heard nothing but great praises on, you look at the job you do when you guys go through a street, and look at what it looks like when they went through a street, night and day. So, great job.
As far as liability goes, since we're going out on our own and doing this, is there any increased liability to the city for doing this, or does the contractor hold their own liability for?
The contractors are supposed to be licensed and insured, and we require that. The people that we're looking at are local, and unfortunately, the county, I think the guy that was unlicensed was from Kentucky, so they're just not hiring reputable people at this point. And we know the people already that we've hired previously. They've done a great job, and we don't have any issues with them, so.
Okay. Any further comment from council?
Nope, that's all I have.
Councilman Osmer?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Breimer?
Yes.
Councilman Dodd? Yes. Councilman Montanaro?
Yes.
Mayor Catino?
Courtney, is there any other?
Oh, I'm sorry, yes, I got more. The other items, I did want to mention that we did submit the ARP application, so we'll be following through with tracking that, and we have to complete a survey for that, so we'll be coming back with you and talk about that at the next meeting. We have a citizen outreach, or the Citizen Oversight Committee for the lagoon tax. I was appointed to that committee, and our first meeting will be November 30th. So the county is already up and running and getting the project started and making the recommendations. And so we'll be having our first meeting on November 30th, and it'll be located at the Cocoa Ag Center, yes, thank you. We were, on Tuesday, the county deeded over the sports park property to the city. We are waiting on the review of two easements for their infrastructure out there for the sewer plant, but pretty much it's done a done deal. So we will be processing the $100 and we'll be done. So that's a good news, and I think we'll be planning a small ceremony out at the park to dedicate that.
Right.
Good investment.
Good.
That started
That's right.
when Frank and I were on council back in the 90s.
David Schechter, yeah.
Yeah.
Good
So-
trade.
Good trade.
Good trade.
Also, we had a very successful board luncheon. Some of you were there. A lot of the board members that attended were very appreciative and thought it was great that we were doing that, and they wanted to thank me to pass that on to you all, and thank you. They felt appreciated, so that was a good luncheon. And that's it. That's all I got.
One question to you. Could you tell us about, it posted on your Facebook page, and the reason is it just kind of struck me how the police officer who helped the little girl.
Yep, Corporal Robbie Brooks.
Yeah.
I got an email from Chief Pearson yesterday, and he was explaining a story that happened a couple days ago where he was flagged down by a woman who, after he was actually making a traffic stop, and right when he was done, he was flagged down by this lady, and she said, I want to thank you for an officer. Corporal Robbie Brooks was driving down a road, and there was a little girl who was about 7 or 8 years old, and she was crying, like very upset, and she had her bike with her, and he pulled over to find out what was wrong, and her bike was broken, and he spent the next 15 minutes fixing her bike, and she went on her way smiling, and this lady was so impressed that she went and flagged down Chief Pearson to tell him all about it, and she said, and this is the quote that I thought that really just struck me. She said, "That's why I live here." So I put that on Facebook. I think we're up to like 930 likes, and it was shared, 70 times. I think that's the first time I've ever put anything on Facebook and did not get one negative comment.
That's great. Okay.
That's pretty neat.
Thank you. Any further?
I just got one go back. I don't know if Courtney can help me, but maybe Alan. They're doing up there at Hightower, that work up there. I had somebody ask me how that's going. Is it going to be done soon? I know we talked about it. I know they were replacing that. Isn't it a
Lift station.
It's a lift station, yeah. The county's replacing, doing the work on the lift station. It's probably going to be another month before they're totally done, I would think. What do you, John?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm looking right past you. Yeah. One of three. They're going to be moving on to the one that's on Jamaica and DeSoto at some point, working on that one. And I think the one on Kale as well, right? Yeah. So they're trying to upgrade all of these lift stations because of all the sewer issues they've been having. Right now, over in Melbourne, they're suffering this very same thing that they have over here, so, but, yeah.
I just remember that, didn't we approve an additional easement or something at one time, right? Isn't that what we did, so they had more room to
They
get
actually had
their,
to buy the property from the state, yeah. It was kind
so
of
they
a
could
pain.
get their equipment off the road and stuff like that?
Right.
I remember that was taking place, but I had somebody ask me, and they just said how much longer they thought that was gonna take. I haven't seen any problems with it. I mean, I ride by it twice a day going to and from work, so it doesn't seem like they're out on the road or causing any issues.
Yeah, the only problem is the sidewalk, is you have to almost walk into the road in that section to go around the construction, because the sidewalk is being impeded, but, I don't think it'll be that much longer, we'll be able to walk, they'll be able to open up that sidewalk.
Okay, that's good.
Further? Okay, thank you. Moving on to agenda item 6. Discuss take action on external defibrillators for the Schechter Center. Chief?
As you guys are well known, we have automatic external defibrillators in all of our city buildings. We have one in the recreation center, but it's located in the recreation center lobby area, and it is quite a bit of ways from the gymnasium. So just part of our process where we want to upgrade and put AEDs where they need to be. This is a request to buy an AED from Physio Control, which is our provider, for $1,274.35, and the money will come from the ALS Trust Fund, which is donation supported.
Thank you very much.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion by Councilman Gott, second by Councilman Osmer. Discussion from council? Hearing none, at this time, open up for public comment on agenda item 6. Hearing none, back to council. Chief, are we missing anywhere else?
As far as city buildings, no, there is not one in the beach house. The A-frame, that's the only city building that we do not have one located in. That may be something we consider, but we're getting ready to go through the renovations and all that, so maybe that's something we just program in once that's been rebuilt and the occupancy increases.
Thank you. Okay, public comment? Hearing none, back to council. Any further council? Lenore?
Councilman Montanaro?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Breimer?
Yes.
Councilman Osmer?
Yes.
Councilman Gott? Yes. Mayor Patino?
Yes, motion passes. Thank you, Chief. Moving on to agenda item 7, take action on disposition of vehicles. Alan?
Someone left their cell phone here.
Oh, that's mine. I was wondering where
Leave
that
it
went.
there.
I think it didn't ring.
Good evening. Before you tonight is the recommendation to dispose of 3 former police vehicles, former police/public works vehicles. At least 2 of them were, and they're in very bad shape. We've used the 2 Crown Vics to a point where they're no longer safe to operate. They're rusted through pretty basically. The Dodge Charger has been a maintenance nightmare for us for a very, very, very long time. Go back and look at the records. I think the useful life probably wore out on that thing about 5 years ago as far as money put into it. So I am asking for your blessing to dispose of these vehicles. We looked into a few salvage folks, and this was the best we could come up with. So, and you can see how bad a shape it is, that they're only going to give us $125 for the Crown Vics. But, scrapping's a hard thing to get a lot of money for, so.
Great. Thank you. Questions from council?
How are you going to replace these vehicles?
They've been replaced. These vehicles were, excuse me, the police department gave us their old one of their old SUVs, and we used that. And then we repaired one of the chief's old vehicle, and I use that now. I put my truck into the fleet. So I no longer drive a pickup truck, I drive the old Trailblazer. So we definitely repurpose all of these vehicles and get a lot of use out of them.
I move to approve the sale of the 3 cited city vehicles to A&M Auto World, Inc. for the amount of $750.
Second.
Motion by Councilman Gott, second by Councilman Osmer. At this time, open up for public comment. Hearing none, back to council. Any further council? Nope. Hearing none. Lenore?
Councilman Montanaro?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Breimer?
Yes.
Councilman Osmer?
Yes.
Councilman Gott?
Yes.
Mayor Patino?
Yes, motion passes. Alan, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to agenda item 8, discuss and take action on ordinance 1130, and this is a second reading. Jim?
Ordinance number 1130, an ordinance of the City of Satellite Beach, Brevard County, Florida, amending Satellite Beach City Code, Chapter 30, Land Development Regulations, Article 5, Building Regulations, Division 3, Fences and Walls by creating fence height requirements applicable to parcels abutting canals, providing for conflicts clause, providing for severability, providing for codification, providing an effective date. It's a second reading of ordinance number 1130.
Motion to approve ordinance number 1130 on second reading.
Second.
I have a motion by Vice Mayor Breimer, second by Councilman Gott. Discussion from council. I know we're going to have some discussion up here. Okay. Any discussion from here? Courtney?
Staff is recommending to amend the ordinance in front of you to add another provision. So you have in section 5 on the second page of the ordinance where it says, for parcels abutting canals, fences shall not be higher than 4 feet when such fence, and then it has 2 sections. The first one is that it runs perpendicular to the shoreline. Second is that it's located within 10 feet of the water's edge. What we would like to do is add a third that says the maximum, the fence shall have a maximum 30% opaqueness per running foot. And this would match the same opaqueness requirements for the oceanfront for fences. And the reason why we were requesting that is that even though there's a 4-foot requirement which lowers the height, it still impedes the view of the canal front owner. The opaqueness is a common requirement in the county and the other areas that have canal front properties.
So say it again.
So the requirement would be the fence would have a maximum 30% opaqueness per running foot.
I'll amend my motion.
Let me just...
Oh, okay.
30, John, we sat and talked about this. Opaqueness is going to be a difference than distance between slats, because there is a swimming pool ordinance that says it can't, you were explaining to me when we were sitting there that opaqueness, that distance.
Yeah, it's, they sometimes can be in conflict. For the most part, the maximum 30% opaqueness, if they adhere to that, they will meet the pool barrier spacing requirement, which I think is 1 3/4 or something like that. But we've issued permits based on that criteria before. Essentially, all fences on the east side of 1A have to meet that, and as we know, there's a lot of pools there. So those two can work in unison.
The only reason I'm saying is I have sat through, being up here long as we have, a few fence ordinances, and every time we do them, somewhere down the road, but not too far down the road, we have an issue. I just want to make sure, I have no problem with the 30, I just don't want it to be in conflict with swimming pool issue with the state. So that's my concern. I just want to make sure that it meets the codes to put this in.
It does. The pool barrier requirements refer to height as well as the picket spacing. So what do you think?
I have one. In the first one where it says it runs perpendicular to the shoreline, to me perpendicular is 90 degrees. What happens when you have a pie-shaped lot and the fence doesn't go 90 degrees? You specified perpendicular, and it may not be.
Sure.
Be 90
Better
degrees to the
wording.
angle.
I understand what you're saying, because it is at 90 degrees and it's not perpendicular.
And all I'm bringing it up for is that maybe we want to insert a different
Word.
description there of how it goes down to the water, because on a pie-shaped lot, it's not going to be perpendicular. I understand the intent,
You
but,
could just say it's running along the side lot of the house.
yeah, I mean, you can say it runs down the lot lines to the
Yeah.
water. and-
Side yard fences.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it could be interpreted different by somebody,
Yeah.
the way it's written.
I would think almost all cases we're talking about the side yard fence.
Yeah, it is. Well, that's the purpose of that section.
Yeah.
So that's what we're trying to say is
But a
we're
side
not,
yard
we're not
fence on a-
requiring 4 feet for your, for a
You're
fence
saying
that's
on
going
a
to run.
pie-shaped lot, the lot is shaped like this, and the water is over here, it's not necessarily
Well, I understand that, but
perpendicular.
the point of that section is the side lots. So, like, if, the fence, part of the fence that's going to run this way, parallel to the
I
water.
understand
It
that.
doesn't need to be 4 feet, is what we're trying to say,
Jim? Language? Because, I've sat through a lot of fence
And
ordinances.
this is why
and
I've
what I
been
don't
saying,
want to
that's
do.
why I'm bringing this up.
Right, and the point is, if we need more time on it and we need a second reading, the next time,
You just have people waiting on it.
I understand. I just want to make sure we're not, that it's covered, and it's not that we understand it, that when someone comes in next year or 2 weeks from now and reads it, that we didn't have a loophole or we didn't mess
I think you
something
could
up.
say runs along the side yard.
The it would need to be something that, it runs the property line to the water.
Or can you just add that, say runs perpendicular to
Or-
or along lot line?
Yeah, I mean, there needs to be something in
That way you
that
cover
clarifies
both of them,
something other than perpendicular.
just perpendicular.
Now that we're talking about the pool barrier, I have another concern. This may be better to table. Here's why. Is the pool barrier requirements, if the horizontal stringers, so we're talking about the horizontal that your picket's attached to, if the horizontal stringers are less than, I think it's 52 inches apart, then the maximum picket spacing is 1 3/4.
So people can't get their foot in there.
That's exactly right.
Kids.
Yeah, you know it.
I know.
Which is why even...
How is this dealt with at the beachfront?
Say again?
How is this dealt with on the beach side?
That's what I got to look into.
So the code exists, but
There may be a conflict in these two.
I just have sat through quite a few of these, and I don't want to put the people out to have to wait, but in the same token, and I can't remember how many variances and stuff people have come forward to because we've changed fence ordinances a lot. So I just want to make sure we cover ourselves.
I'll withdraw my second.
And my primary motion.
At this time, what I will do, because I know people are here for that, and that input from you might help us, so the podium's open for discussion on this agenda item.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. I appreciate you taking a look at this because I know that the one property owner had a customary view, and that she believed that she had a customary view, and she's been a permanent resident of the city for over 50 years. In addition to that, I've been a resident of the city for 15 years and a waterfront resident for 5.5, and I had the same customary view. So I guess what that's teaching us is that we have to make sure we get our fence ordinances correct, and that when we ask, and somebody says, oh, yeah, no, you can't have a fence over here behind your house that impedes the view, you have to go down and find out where it is in writing and make sure that that's the interpretation before somebody does get a permit. So I appreciate you taking a look at this, and I concur somewhat with the staff recommendation, but I do need 2 clarifications. The first one is whether or not the entire fencing material from the rear of the house to the canal is subject to the maximum 30% opaqueness, or just the 10-foot, 4-foot section.
Okay.
That's the first question.
One of the
My
problems we're running
interpretation.
into, for instance, when this ordinance was written, the opaqueness wasn't part of this. So my assumption was that it was going to be pool barrier, therefore it was going to be solid opaque. So where the conflict comes in is when we start requiring that they spread the pickets out, not necessarily the way it was written, where if they have a pool, therefore a pool barrier, we expect and we enforce that requirement that it's a solid opaque fence all the way down the waterway. And that's where also the 4-foot height came into play, is those two met the pool barrier requirement. So once we start opening up, we've got to look at how we're doing this.
So Courtney, you know her first question. Your first question, so.
My first question is, what is the fencing
Right, so
material
we'll make
going
sure
to be
we-
made of from the rear of the,
Right,
well,
I mean,
on the
it's
entire
basically
side?
saying that the fence that's within 10 feet of the water's edge will be 4 feet, so we're just adding a maximum 30% opaqueness per running foot. So
To
that
the
requirement-
Within that 10 feet.
opaqueness?
Correct, within that 10
Okay, well,
feet.
then I would like that 10 feet to come back to 20, 25, something like that. Because right now, my experience is that I will lose 90% of my view if somebody can put up a wooden stockades or some kind of solid wall.
Laura, you
fence.
need to talk into the
Oh,
microphone.
I'm sorry, I thought I was. And the 10 feet doesn't do me a bunch of good. I like the opaqueness, but I think also the lagoon fronting properties should also have the same view rights as the ocean, as east of A1A, the oceanfront lots.
And we will take that and we'll look into it, because obviously we're not going to vote on it tonight.
And I will be at the meeting, so.
Okay, great.
And then the second question was that it did come up, and I had asked John this earlier. I have dealt with staff this week on this, and they've been very helpful, both Carl and John, as I wanted to clarify this issue of whether or not you can put any kind of fencing that's solid parallel to the canal, even if it's 10 feet back, because that still impedes the peripheral view from an adjacent property. So if you can put a 6-foot fence that's, for example, a solid wood or some kind of wall, you're impeding that peripheral view also, even if it's parallel. You might not want to impede your view, but some people do, so.
The way the code is currently written, you can do a solid opaque 6-foot fence, wrap it all the way around your backyard. That would mean that you as a homeowner do not see the water, you do not see your neighbors. You can block it all around. If this ordinance was approved, essentially that would mean that even that fence running parallel would have to be at 4 feet, because it's still within 10 feet of that bulkhead.
But if it was 12 feet back, it could still be a solid fence, even with this.
I'm not sure.
It could still, if you went 12 feet back from the bulkhead, you could have a 6-foot fence parallel to the canal.
You see, you're saying take the 10 and make it.
No, she's saying that if you take that, right now it's 10 feet,
Yeah.
correct? So,
Well, it will be.
well, let's just say it will be. And you move it, we don't move it, but somebody puts a fence 12 feet away, then can that fence at 12 feet that runs parallel, can it be 6 feet?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's what I think her point is.
Okay. That's it, thank you.
Thank
I
you
appreciate
for the
you
input.
hearing about
I know we'll
this.
be working on it.
Thank
I
you.
mean, but you have to understand, somebody could put a shed there too. I mean, so,
Understand.
you know, at what point are we going to tell people they can't build in their backyard because of somebody else's view? So, I mean, that's why we have to respect people's right to build in their house, their backyard.
I just want to get all the information we understand, because as we've been through fence ordinances, we know what happens. Podium's still open for public comment.
Let me add one other note, if you don't mind, please. The building setback, the principal structure setback from the canal bulkhead is 20 feet. So it can substantially block that view depending on where your adjacent neighbor is already. So we're talking about a pool enclosure, pool deck can be within 10 feet of the bulkhead. So a pool enclosure certainly has that ability to also block, and that's at 10 feet.
Thank you. Podium still open for public comment? Hearing no further public comment, thank you, and I know it will be back. Moving on to agenda item 9, ordinance number 1131. Jim, excuse me.
Ordinance number 1131, an ordinance of the City of Satellite Beach, Brevard County, Florida, amending Satellite Beach City Code, Chapter 30, Land Development Regulations, Article 4, zoning by removing two-story limitation applicable to specified residential zoning districts, providing for conflicts clause, providing for severability, providing for codification, and providing an effective date. It's the second reading of ordinance number 1131.
Thank you. Motion?
So moved.
Second.
By Councilman Montanaro, second by Councilman Osmer. Further discussion from council? Hearing none, at this time open up for public comment, the second reading of ordinance 1131. Hearing none, bring it back to council. Council, any further?
Nope.
Lenore?
Councilman McGough?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Breimer?
Yes.
Councilman Osmer?
Yes.
Councilman Montanaro?
Yes.
Mayor Patino?
Yes.
Before you go on, for item number 8 on ordinance 1130, we really should do a motion to postpone consideration of ordinance 1130 on second reading. That's my motion.
Second. Will accept it, thank you. I have a motion by Councilman Gott, second by Councilman Montanaro. Further discussion? Lenore?
Hold on a second. Councilman Osmer?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Breimer?
Yes.
Councilman Montanaro?
Yes.
Councilwoman Gott?
Yes.
Mayor Patino?
Yes, motion passed. Thank you. We're on agenda item 10. Ordinance 1130, discuss, take action on ordinance 1134. Jim?
Ordinance number 1134, an ordinance of the City of Satellite Beach, Brevard County, Florida, amending appropriation of funds for fiscal year 2015-2016 budget ordinance number 1110. Said ordinance was previously amended by ordinance number 1118, providing an effective date. It's the second reading of ordinance number 1134.
Move to adopt 1134 on second reading.
Second.
I have a motion by Councilwoman Gott, second by Councilman Osmer. Discussion from council? Hearing none at this time, open up for public comment, agenda item 10. Hearing none, back to council. Lenore, any comment? Lenore?
Councilman Montanaro?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Breimer?
Yes.
Councilman Osmer?
Yes.
Councilwoman Gott?
Yes.
Mayor Patino?
Yes. Motion passes. Moving on to agenda item 11, which is, we have a special meeting first at 6:30 on the 7th, and then our regular scheduled meeting at 7 p.m.
The question I have, Mr. Mayor, is do we need a half an hour to do that?
Probably 6:45, I'm sure we'll be fine. Okay.
I'm okay with that.
Thank you. And again, take a look at the agenda for the 7th. I think we will have a change to some of this, and so please get with Courtney on this. Moving on to agenda item 12, the adoption of minutes.
I move to adopt the minutes from the workshop meeting on November 2nd and the regular meeting on November 2nd as submitted.
I have a motion by Councilman Osmer. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Vice Mayor Breimer. Any discussion? Hearing none, Lenore?
Councilwoman Gott?
Yes.
Councilman Montanaro?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Breimer?
Yes.
Councilman Osmer?
Yes.
Mayor Patino?
Yes, motion passes. Any further business?
Before we leave, we went through the budget amendment, and I wanted to make sure that I was on the record that the budget amendment for the second reading was modified from the first reading, and that paragraph is in the staff report. So I just wanted to read it into the record that the budget amendment has been further revised for second reading and includes actual expenditures incurred since the first reading, and adds an additional buffer to cover any other year-end expenditures that may impact 2015-2016. The tentative decrease to the city reserves changes from $36,094 to $47,036, and at a difference of $10,942. And the modified line items are highlighted in yellow in your exhibit. So I just wanted to make sure you are aware of those changes, and it was read into the record because we kind of went through that fast. Thank you.
Appreciate it very much. Any further business? Thank you, everyone, for coming. Meeting's adjourned.